In today's lesson, we're going to look at the data that you should pay attention to when you're looking at other campaigns. What are these key pieces of data? First of all, how many tiers that campaign has, how many things, how many different levels the backers can pay for. When you figure out how many of these levels there are, check what is the price for each one of them. And once you have that, you need to check how many people have pledged at that level. Some will have most of the backing, some might even have zero backers. This is very important even to understand how efficient some tiers are compared to others. Then you can calculate, and I'll show you how, what is the gross income for that tier. And you might think, hey, this one that is priced, I don't know, $50 is making most of the money because it has the most backers. It could be that way, but the most important thing that we will learn a bit later on is the margin, because it depends what that tier contains. And how much does it cost to produce that thing? Because it might cost $49 and then it would mean that the margin for that tier is just $1. So it might be less profitable than a tier that is priced $25 but it costs only $2 to produce, okay? And then another important thing, you can check if that tier is limited or unlimited, because some of the tiers have a limited amount of rewards that can be claimed. After that, they become inactive and people need to pick something else. So as I mentioned, margin is the most important thing, but we will check that in a later module. Here's an example. I've been taking tabletop RPG, a Swedish tabletop RPG called Mork Borg. It's pretty famous. These are the tiers they had. These are converted from crowns, so that's why they might look a bit weird. They start at €1, then they go to 9.80, 24.70. To be honest, on Kickstarter you cannot put the point something. The actual number there was in crown, but with the conversion, of course, I get some cents. Then they have one at 49.40, one at €74, and one at 118. I think the last one, I'm not sure if it was only for retailers. I should check in the campaign. You can see on the side how many people pledge for that specific level and what is the gross income for a tier. And what can you do with that? Once you have several campaigns data, you can create this kind of graph, and I have a way for you to make this almost automatically in the Pledge Manager. And from this graph, you can understand where was the most amount of pledges and where that amount of pledges corresponded to the most amount of money, of gross income. Sometimes the two things are correlated, sometimes they're not. For example, you can see that in this specific graph, the most amount of pledges was in the bracket between 26 and 35 euros, but that's not the bracket that brought in the most money. Once you have that, and you have it for several campaigns, as I will show you later, you can kind of create a projected request for your project based on historical data. The more campaigns similar to yours you can find, for various reasons, that it might be thematic, it might be the kind of audience you're trying to crowdfund the game to, the more you find, the more accurate this would be. Well, this is very useful to understand that when you need to ask for estimates, like what is the range that you should go for when you're asking, okay, I need to produce this amount of books or this amount of dice and that kind of thing. One important thing that I need to mention is that these calculations are purely mathematical. They never can take into account what is actually offered in a certain pledge. And that is a qualitative evaluation that needs to be taken into account, and no mathematical model can actually do that. But the more campaigns you have into your data set, the less important this factor is. As I mentioned, as a bonus resource to the premium course, you will find one lesson explaining where to download and how to use the pledge planner, which also allows you to make those projections that I mentioned in the previous slide.